What's up, QAA listeners?
The fun games have begun.
I found a way to connect to the internet. I'm sorry, boy.
Welcome, listener, to Chapter 185 of the QAnon Anonymous podcast, the Sean-Feucht Goes to Disney episode. As always, we are your hosts, Jake Rockatansky,
Julian Fields,
and Travis View.
This week, we are back out in the field, having attended the anti-LGBT protest outside of Disney Studios in Burbank, California. Organized by activist and revivalist musician Sean-Feucht, it was a physical manifestation of a greater QAnon-style effort on the right, who are seeking to court outrage among potential midterm voters by accusing anybody left of them, or even who just support LGBT rights, of being pedophiles and groomers. So first, we'll get some context by exploring the so-called Don't Say Gay law passed by Ron De Santis in Florida, along with the way right-wing operators and media are using it to fuel their narrative. Then we'll head out into the field to observe this hate machine operating on a ground level by mixing with the protesters outside of Disney Studios.
On April 1st, Florida Governor Ron De Santis signed into law the measure, the Parental Rights in Education Bill, which critics have dubbed the Don't Say Gay bill. Now, supporters of the bill object to this characterization because the words gay or homosexual don't actually appear anywhere in the bill, and that's true, but a close examination of how the bill will likely be enforced reveals that this is besides the point. Now, a lot of the rhetoric around this bill is frankly fucking insane, so I'm going to try and break down the controversy as best as I can. So, the text of the legislation says that it aims to reinforce the fundamental right of parents to make decisions regarding the upbringing and control of their children. Hey, that's a good thing. I'm a father. I'm definitely interested in ensuring I maintain my right to make decisions regarding the upbringing of my child. Now, if you pitch it to me like that and you say I learned nothing else about the bill, I'm already sold. Now, the section of the bill that is generating the most controversy says this.
Classroom instruction by school personnel or third parties on sexual orientation or gender identity may not occur in kindergarten through grade 3, or in a manner that is not age-appropriate or developmentally appropriate for students in accordance with state standards.
Proponents of the bill characterize it as a ban on sex instruction, but if you notice, the bill bans classroom instruction on sexual orientation or gender identity, while saying nothing about instruction about the act of sex itself. Secondly, the text of the bill is really vague, and this is causing, I think, a lot of the conflict and confusion and strife. So, what exactly constitutes classroom instruction on sexual orientation? I mean, is it teaching any material which includes an approving depiction of a sexual orientation? Now, that's a very broad interpretation, which can lead to sort of really absurd situations. Take, for example, a classic novel Charlotte's Web by E.B. White. You may remember that near the end of that book, the character of Fern Arable matures, becomes interested in boys, and starts spending more time with a classmate of hers named Henry Fussy. In other words, Charlotte's Web, which is read to millions of young children every year without objection, depicts a girl who grows up and develops a particular sexual orientation. It's a beautiful book, and one of the themes happens to be about maturing and losing innocence. Now, does reading this book to third graders in Florida constitute classroom instruction on sexual orientation and therefore violate the law? Now, that seems ludicrous, and I can't imagine any parent would actually object to Charlotte's Web. But if you're going to argue that the Florida bill doesn't prohibit the teaching of Charlotte's Web, that naturally raises the question of what kind of depictions of sexual orientation the law does prohibit.
What if Charlotte was gay?
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about Jack and Jill. They're
the Adam Sandler movie, I hope.
They're they are running up a hill together.
Okay.
They are fetching a pail.
All right.
They are tumbling back down the hill, rolling over each other in the grass. I mean, one can infer
what
that the pail.
What's the yeah?
When
the spilling?
Well, I don't know.
You're almost there, man. Almost saying that the pail was full of cum.
You know what? I thought about that and decided not to go there. So once again, you get 75% of a bit.
So, I mean, yeah, but the issue seems to be is that, like, most people, like, when they hear sexual orientation, they usually mean anything besides straight. And there's this sort of idea that there's sort of like this porous nature between merely describing people with a particular sexual orientation and teaching about sex, which is not the case.
They want gay people to disappear. And certainly, any portrayal of gay or trans people to be non-positive, basically. It has to be associated with misery and torment and sin.
Yeah, that's basically why, those critics are saying that the enforcement of the law will be discriminatory, even if the letter of the law isn't.
Yeah, which by the way, is critical theory, basically. But let's not bring that up with them right now. It seems like they just got over that fever.
There's also a misconception that the bill only affects classrooms up to the 3rd grade. Now, that's not true. It also prohibits instruction on sexual orientation or gender identity for every other grade level that is not age-appropriate or developmentally appropriate. But how do you define the barrier between appropriate and inappropriate? And here the law offers no clear guidance. For example, some Shakespeare comedies involve cross-dressing and gender role swapping, so it's impossible to teach these plays without some instruction on concepts related to gender identity. So when can an English teacher or a drama teacher in Florida bring Twelfth Night into the curriculum without fear of their school being sued? It's like 8th grade, 9th, 10th. It's not really known. This law may also create confusion for government or civics classes. When, if ever, would a teacher be permitted to discuss the 2015 Supreme Court case Obergefell versus Hodges, which ruled that the right to marry extends to same-sex couples? Some LGBTQ teachers have also expressed concerns that common informal classroom activities, such as sharing information about their partner or displaying pictures of their family, puts them at risk at being in violation of the law. So, how to interpret the law isn't really known because the text is vague, and since it's a new law, there's no clarifying precedent in the court. And the only way to establish legal precedent would be through a parent accusing the school of violating the law and suing. Which brings me to another criticism of the law. The vagueness means that there is a massively broad range of scenarios in which parents might have grounds to sue. This is a risk for cash-strapped schools and leaves teachers uncertain about how to comply with the law. Florida State Representative Carlos Smith said this:
The bill's intentionally vague language leaves teachers afraid to talk to their students and opens up school districts to costly and frivolous litigation from those seeking to exclude LGBTQ people from any grade level.
So the criticisms are essentially that the law is so vague that the barriers of what is permitted or not are unclear. It affects every grade level, not just the youngest students. It puts schools under heightened risk of frivolous lawsuits due to the law's vagueness. It has a profound chilling effect on what teachers talk about in a way that doesn't actually protect or help students. And despite the fact that the law doesn't mention homosexuality or transsexuality specifically, in practice it will only target depictions of marginalized gender and sexual identities, thus negatively affecting the well-being of some students. You may notice that none of these criticisms involve insisting that teachers should teach kindergartners about sex and then hide this instruction from the children's parents. Some supporters of the bill seem to be under the impression that the bill merely bans sex instruction for 5 to 8-year-olds. That is not true, and one of the reasons we know that's not true is that Florida lawmakers rejected efforts to turn the measure into a straightforward prohibition on sex education in the early grades. While the bill was being developed, a Republican Florida legislator, Senator Jeff Brandes, offered an amendment to the bill so that it specifically banned instruction on human sexuality and sexual activity rather than sexual orientation. Here's what Brandes said about the amendment and why he couldn't support the bill during a meeting of the Florida Senate Appropriations Committee.
I think that we can all agree, everybody on this panel can agree, that sensitive subjects between kindergartners and 3rd graders should be best handled at home. I think we can all agree. And then the question for the faith-based community is then, can we modify the language to accomplish those goals and ensure that we're not hurting our neighbors? Can we find a way to modify the language in such a way that our neighbors in this room don't feel harmed? We have the opportunity to soften this, to accomplish both goals, to ensure that these conversations are had at home, and also to not impact our neighbors in the way that today you've seen them impacted. I hope we can find a way forward here. I have to believe that we can. I'm not going to support the bill today in hopes that we can find a way to love our neighbors before this gets to the floor.
Wow, I bet he got just kicked right out of town.
Yeah.
he's talking to Floridians, and you could tell he's just bracing for a punch. He's like, oh, you're not gonna like this, but what you're doing is hateful, and maybe we could just shift it so it's what your stated goal is accomplished.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, this man is a Republican father of four, and he's basically telling what he called the faith-based community. It's like, hey, let's do what you say you want to do without basically hurting the people of the state. And yeah, I mean, that the Brandes Amendment was actually endorsed by one of the bill's most vocal critics in the legislature. That's Democratic Representative Carlos Smith, who said this.
For those who are pushing a bill like this because they want to restrict what they consider to be inappropriate sexual education topics in kindergarten through third grade, this amendment actually does that and takes the bill from being about prohibiting conversations or instruction toward a group of people, LGBTQ people, and erasing our identities and our visibility in public schools. It just makes it a bill about restricting sex ed for lower grade levels.
Senator Dennis Baxley, the main sponsor of the bill, encouraged his fellow legislators to reject the bipartisan amendment by saying this.
I would kindly ask you to vote against this amendment. I consider it an unfriendly amendment from a very friendly person that would significantly gut the effort of this bill. Thank you.
Piece of shit.
I know. Again, this is
Slimebag.
what you said we wanted. Yeah, and it was wound up being rejected by the Florida legislature. And I think this is, kind of crazy and worth emphasizing. There was an opportunity to amend the legislation so that merely prohibited sex education for the youngest Florida students. And that amendment, which would have helped avoid much of the strife we're seeing right now and was supported by even critics of the law as it was passed, it was rejected, which indicates, I think, that the legislation is actually about much more than just that.
Yeah, and, obviously learning about this context really emphasizes for me how different the messaging was from the people protesting outside of Disney. I mean, it has nothing to do with this. It is wild.
Yes, supporters of the Parent Rights and Education Bill frequently respond to these criticisms by accusing the critics of being pedophiles and or child groomers. And this smear it's not limited to just like anonymous Twitter accounts with groypers or glowing eyes in the profile pictures. Governor De Santis himself said in an interview with Tucker Carlson that critics of the bill just want to sexualize children.
They have to lie because if they admitted what they were really for, sexualizing kindergartners and first graders, they know that would not fly with the public.
Good stuff, like where the discourse is going.
Yeah.
Accusation that opponents of the bill are child groomers was even pushed by Christina Pushaw, the spokesperson for Governor DeSantis, in a pair of tweets.
The bill that liberals inaccurately call, quote, "don't say gay," would be more accurately described as an anti-grooming bill. If you're against the anti-grooming bill, you are probably a groomer, or at least you don't denounce the grooming of 4 to 8-year-old children. Silence is complicity. This is how it works, Democrats, and I didn't make the rules.
Oh, my God. Just write like an asshole.
You also hear a lot of right-wing people online who defend the use of groomer, the casual accusation, essentially, of not only are critics pedophiles, but they're actively, enticing children towards being abused by expressing disappointment that they were called Nazis and racists in ways that they thought was unfair. So they're not really defending on their own merits. They think it's a sort of like a tit-for-tat kind of thing in online discourse. What's really interesting is that the proliferation of this grooming smear and the OK Groomer meme was documented by the Harvard law instructor Alejandra Caraballo. She tweeted that the earliest known usage of OK Groomer comes from 2019 by the Irish television writer and anti-trans activist Graham Linehan. And then in March 2020, a 4chan post encouraged others to use the phrase on Twitter.
The anonymous poster writes, "Use your Twitter accounts to comment OK Groomer under every post regarding LGBTQ sexualization of children. If OK Boomer made people flip their shit, I suspect this will make them come out as pedos and actively defend child molesting. Let's choose one latest LGBTQ social media post to assess the effect. Godspeed, lads."
So it's really clear that this phrase was conceived to be part of an online hate campaign. Initially the campaign wasn't very successful, but in January 2021, Jack Posobiec retweeted a tweet that contained the phrase OK Groomer. But the phrase really got traction thanks to the anti-CRT crusader James Lindsay, who pushed the grooming attack multiple times a day in February of this year through his Conceptual James Twitter account. And then it made its way all the way to the spokesperson for the governor of the third largest state. It used to be like, political communications team, like, they had like, a bunch of people to try and cook up messages. Now they can just go to 4chan.
Great.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Disney got involved because of its large business dealings in Florida, which include the Disney World Resort and employing 75,000 people in the state. In early March, Disney and its CEO, Bob Chapek, spoke out against the bill in an internal staff email, but refused to publicly condemn the bill. This prompted staged walkouts from employees, which in turn prompted Chapek to publicly speak out against the bill. After the law passed, Disney made a more forceful statement saying that the bill should never have been signed into law and that they are committed to having it repealed or struck down by the courts. And this, of course, led to De Santis and online cultural warriors condemning woke Disney, which has led to the protest that Julian documented.
On April 4th, far-right activist and revivalist Christian musician Sean-Feucht posted a call to action on his Facebook page.
The sexualization and indoctrination of 4-year-old children should be the line drawn in the sand for every single sane American citizen. This is the reason why we are gathering outside of the Disney headquarters this Wednesday, April 6th at 6 p.m. Listen, we have parents showing up. We have former Disney employees that are coming. Every concerned American and Californian should join us as we rally together to make our voice be heard. If there is one issue in the eyes of the Lord that will define this generation, it is preserving the innocence of our kids. It's time to take a stand. It's time to hold the line. Enough is enough. I will see you there. Join us this Wednesday at 6 p.m. We're going to worship. We're going to pray. We're going to march. We're going to let our voice be heard. We're going to let America and Disney see that we are not going to allow this to stand in our generation. We'll see you there.
Feucht, who styles himself as a kind of, young youth pastor with long blonde hair, a kind of chill guy with a guitar, is actually a figure associated with the Bethel Church in Redding, California, where he was once a worship leader. Since around 2016, his work has grown increasingly political, and he's been effective at whipping up revivalist crowds into political action through social media messaging and an unending series of worship gatherings held across the United States. These usually involve religious and political figures making sermons and speeches, as well as music led by Feucht and his band. The gatherings are attended by powerful GOP figures like Ron De Santis and Josh Hawley, and just a few months ago, Trump recorded a message endorsing Feucht's movement that was played at a 9/11 D.C. gathering that we covered. Feucht also recently ran an unsuccessful Republican campaign for California's 3rd congressional district in 2020. During the pandemic, he's organized many gatherings protesting mask mandates, and, unsurprisingly, is now hopping on this anti-LGBT bandwagon as the narrative surges in popularity on right-wing media. Sean has frequently ranted about Antifa, which he claims are demonic, while hanging out with Proud Boys and other far-right militia people. On the morning of the April 6th Disney protest, Feucht appeared on Fox and Friends and was interviewed by Ainsley Earhart, who gave him praise for his work and helped him promote the event. If they want to win in the midterm elections, the Republicans know that they need the extreme Protestants to vote, and they have no qualms whipping them up into a fury at the expense of LGBT people.
Disney is facing backlash from parents nationwide after taking a stand against Florida's parental rights and education law. And our next guest is slamming the company for standing in the way of protecting our children. And now he's taking action. He's organizing a rally outside of the Walt Disney headquarters in Burbank, California later today. Founder of Hold the Line, Sean-Feucht, joins us this morning. Good morning, Sean.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Good to be with you.
Great to see you and have you on again. Former worship leader at Bethel Church. We listen to your music, love your music. Author, speaker, musician, father of 4 beautiful children, and married his high school sweetheart, and then founded Hold the Line. Tell us what that is before we get into what you're doing today.
Yeah, so this is an activist movement that's to encourage people across America to rise up and stand for biblical values and to really hold the line on all things that we're called to conserve in this season. And in this case, specifically, it's our children.
Oh, God.
You don't like the nice description of his lifestyle?
Yeah, I don't love the really nice tee-up that he got.
Yeah.
Love your music, worship at your church all the time.
Wow. Your beautiful children. You married your high school sweetheart.
High school sweetheart.
Not gay.
A woman, not gay.
You're not gay, God. At the end of the interview, Earhart asked Feucht whether he would stop going to Disneyland with his family, which he had clearly been doing.
Will you continue to take your children to Disney?
You know, me and my wife were talking about that last night, preparing for this segment. And we have to draw a line in the sand. I don't think we're going to do it right now, not until we see them significantly change their ways. I mean, I can't get up here and host this thing in one sense and then not show it with my own family.
Sean, thank you so much. God bless you.
Thank you.
You're
Thanks for having
welcome.
me on.
You're welcome.
So, yeah, I mean, Fox is just literally just fully activist in this matter.
Yeah, 100%. He didn't even say God bless you back to her.
So rude.
This is totally rude, and this is fucked. Like, so his 4 beautiful children can't enjoy the fruit of their father's grifting and all the money that he's making by, multiple trips a year to Disneyland. Like, that is so fucked and unfair to them.
Yeah, that's so messed up.
Maybe he can keep them in certain sections of the park, maybe not It's a Small World, but, Peter Pan, okay.
He's going to go, but he's just going to be dressed as, like, Goofy.
Yeah, of course. His whole family will be dressed. It'll be he's Goofy. And his wife will be Snow White, and the children will be 4 of the 7 dwarfs.
I really hope no one recognizes me. I just needed one more ride around the Peter Pan thing.
Know who I think is actually behind this whole campaign? Knott's Berry Farm.
So, as a result of all this, a little past 6 p.m. on Wednesday, April 6th, I found myself walking up to the protest at Disney Studios in Burbank. The sun was beginning to set behind Sean-Feucht and his band as they prepared to play on a small stage set up on the back of a sizable flatbed truck. A crowd of around 150 people milled about on the sidewalk. They were of all ages and racial backgrounds. Lots of children. Bullhorns. Signs everywhere.
Disney is not the parent.
Arrest pedophiles.
Okay, Groomer.
Fuck Pedowood.
Disney, stop sexualizing our kids.
Go woke, go broke.
Disney is demonic.
A few mainstream media outlets roamed the periphery, carrying out interviews. Several red-pilled content creators were also present, but they were hard to distinguish from attendees, many of whom were also recording everything. Feucht and the band got started.
We call for every wall of perversion to come down in Jesus' name. We call for every wall to strip the innocence of our kids to come down. God, we pray that you would expose Disney for what it is. Expose this corporation. Bring everything that's been hidden into the light.
Surprisingly good sound quality for a street setup on a flatbed like that. He must do this quite a bit.
Kind of what he does. A little later, Feucht's right-hand man, Pastor Jay Koopman, defined the gathering a little more honestly. People were in attendance because they believed homosexuality was inherently evil and wrong.
Up on this stage, we have representations from all sorts of life. You got somebody that came through from same-sex attraction. You got a Disney employee. You've got pastors. You got a young man that was born in a lesbian household, was raised the wrong way, but Jesus got a hold of his life. Are you hearing me right now? You've got worship leaders up here, okay? Are you hearing me? I believe that we are standing in the gap, that we can pray a prayer right now, that we can pray a prayer that the LGBT can be saved and delivered, that Disneyland can have an encounter with the Holy Spirit. Are you with me right now? That the government can be changed. But I don't know about you. I want to see God. Can we pray? Lift up your hands. Lift them up. Come on, cry out. Jesus, we pray right now. Come on, pray, pray, pray.
Just a nightmare of hatred.
Yeah,
and it
this
felt
is unreal.
so fucking bad being there. It's just the worst.
It is like insane that like Fox News endorsed this like Westboro Baptist Church level hate rally.
Yeah.
Also, this is so different from, a handful of the sort of Save the Children rallies that we attended where there was tons of LGBTQ, well, not tons, but there was a noticeable representation of LGBTQ people at these rallies, and that wasn't a problem.
No.
As long as they all believed that, Hillary Clinton is tunneling children. Yeah.
No, they would still be like, we need to basically take care of the pedophile problem inside LGBT, kind of thing. Like, but they're accepted at most of these Q rallies. They're accepted in their identity as gay. They don't have to hear speeches like this usually from the stage. That is very different. This is a way more profoundly homophobic and anti-LGBT kind of rally. Directly after this, Koopman handed the mic to a young man named Ross, who explained how terrible it was that his parents were gay.
Listen, I never had a father for my entire life. Never knew a father, never had a father's embrace, a father's hug, a father's kiss, a father's confidence. Never. Why? I was born by artificial insemination. I grew up in a lesbian household. I had 2 moms. Never had a father in my entire life. And so I'm here to share tonight, we're not just here for a side issue. We're not just here for some small little thing just to look cool and look good. I'm here to share that this is vital for America in this season. And if we don't take a stand now, we might as well pack it up and go home. Because here's the truth. Because I didn't have a father, it led me to a lot of dark places. It led me to anxiety. It led me to hopelessness, to loneliness, to no purpose, no identity. I looked to the world to tell me what my value was. I looked to the world to tell me what my worth was.
Oh, man.
Just demented stuff.
And I would argue that he looks neither good or cool.
No. Doesn't look good or cool. And he looks like, I mean, honestly, his vibe was really menacing. There was something just heavy about his kind of, like, I don't know, look in his eyes and stuff. Like, something's off with this young man. And, I'm not surprised that, he's instrumentalized this having 2 moms into, just this hate speech. Following this young man, a young woman took to the stage to explain that she was currently a Disney employee, but she saw the organization as a set of souls that was ripe for harvest. Unfortunately, she was also pretty nervous, so she keeps kind of mixing up her terms.
I've worked for Disney since 2001, and it has always been a harvest field, and that field is ripe for harvest. So what are they trying to do? They're trying to tell all of the lions that are being raised in the sheep that they're little sheepish lions. But you know what? When something happens to get that lion to be bold, like Lambert the sheepish lion, he was raised among sheep and he was bullied out of his lionness. And so he thought he was a sheep. He thought he was a sheep and he lost his voice until one day a wolf came. The wolf came to take the one thing that was the most precious to him, his mama. So that lion, he looked for help to the left, to the right, and couldn't find anybody. What did he do? He realized he was the one who had to stand up. He was the one who had to find his roar, and he roared. And that wolf let his mama go, and that wolf flew off the cliff. So my encouragement to you, to any Disney cast members that are afraid to be bold, that are afraid to be courageous, stand up. It's okay. You're not alone. You are a sheep you are a lion among sheep. So get out there, roar, and be strong. Thank you.
She must have gotten she must have gotten like a bootleg of The Lion King, because it's kind of that story, but it's
story.
like the weird, it's like
but
the
also
weird,
like in the story he it's like the lion becomes a lion to save his mom who's a sheep. So she's saying, like, okay, sheep can raise lions, which I don't, like, it fucks up the whole thing. Like, if you think it's so bad to be a sheep, but then the mama's, it's like just the whole thing is melted.
And what happened? The Lambert the lion's roar was so ferocious that the wolf threw itself off a cliff, and killed itself. Like what is going on? And of course you've got the one of the musicians from the band in the background, like being like, lay in the sappy background music. What the fuck is she talking about? Okay, Jesus. All right.
Yeah, just keep going. It was pretty cool to watch someone on stage yell, "You are all sheep." What's interesting here is, like, she's admitting, like, they see it as a harvest for souls. I mean, if anything, they're the ones who are like, no, we need to, like, recruit people of all ages, including children, into the straight lifestyle, the straight Christian lifestyle. So it's like, who is trying to, I guess, manipulate sexual orientation and gender identity here? I mean, it really does seem to me that they're just complaining they don't have more of an impact, that they can't basically set the rules for everyone, and that's outrageous to them.
And they're saying this from a culture that is, like, predominantly, and for hundreds and hundreds of years, has placed heterosexuality on a pedestal.
Of course, but it's not enough. It's like you can't let in any gay stuff. Otherwise, it pollutes the endless Disney movies that reaffirm that being a heterosexual is good and awesome, and you should fall in love with someone of the opposite sex. And also, you have to be cis.
Yeah, and you should marry them as well, and definitely start having children right away.
Mm-hmm.
And the children will go on an adventure.
The children?
They'll go on an adventure to save you somehow. Parents always need saving in these Disney movies, or they get killed.
Yeah.
They will have an adventure in the direct-to-DVD Lion King 2, your children.
Yes, yes.
Although Pumbaa seems kind of gay.
Timon and Pumbaa?
They're kind of in a relationship.
Yeah, they are.
That seems...
I don't want... They're the happiest characters in the whole movie. They're the least anxious, actually, the least alone, totally opposite of what the young, the artificial insemination man.
Yeah, the young artificial insemination man.
Well, the way he got up on stage and said it, he might as well have been like, I was created in a laboratory. You know, it's like, Jesus Christ, man.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean,
I am a clone.
I am a hologram. I had no father.
Look, buddy, I have a wonderful father, and I still wrestle with anxiety as well.
Yeah, I wrestle with anxiety because my father was in my life. I don't know, man. I'm just saying it's not, I mean, and the other thing is, I mean, obviously, I'm definitely not going to make that assumption, but it's like, I mean, I don't know. Just because your moms are gay doesn't mean they're good parents. Like that has nothing to do with it. So it's like, well, if you felt like that when you were growing up or whatever, like, I'm sorry you didn't get the love that you deserved, or maybe you did and you were just fucking radicalized by these lunatics to rewrite your entire fucking history so you could fucking speak at hate rallies. It's hard to parse because there's like a disingenuousness that's just baked in.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing I just want to tell these people is, like, stop letting corporations raise your kids. Like, I'm sorry, but movies do not owe it to your kids to raise them for you. Like, you can do whatever you want. You don't have to fucking subscribe to Disney Plus, bring your kids to the fucking park. Like, just shut the fuck up. Just don't consume the shitty-ass product. And it's harder and harder, though, because the product has become just like the brand, giving us the content, and everyone slurps it up. But that's a deeper problem. It has nothing to do with, like whether there's a gay kiss in Buzz Lightyear or whatever.
Yeah, it's like there are, I assume, I've never seen any, but I would assume that there are plenty of DVDs or YouTube videos out there that are like Christian cartoons.
But it's weak sauce. They know their content sucks. They're like, we can't fucking beat Disney's production.
That is so true. It's like, the kid goes to school and everybody's talking about Iron Man. They're talking about Hulk. They're talking about Captain America, Spider-Man, all that stuff.
Mom, I want to go see Spider-Man, but we have a Lambert the Lion at home.
Yeah, exactly. And the kid's like, I don't fit in with the other kids. They're talking about these other heroes. And I got this like weird lion with a sheep mom. And
I think part of the issue is that conservatives felt like historically they could count on Disney to basically uphold their vision of the culture, like be in their side of the ring for the culture war. I mean, Walt Disney literally went to the HUAC, the House Un-American Activities Committee, and accused his own employees of being communists because they went on strike. So he was always solidly like on their side, and this is sort of part of the broader fear that the culture is being ripped away from them in the way that they can't control.
Yeah, but again, Disney's not who they're really going to affect with this. They will not fucking make a dent with Disney. It's fucking Disney at this point. Come on. But what they will make a dent with is LGBT youth specifically are going to just have a way worse year than they would have if this entire bullshit circus hadn't started up. And it is purely to harvest votes by stoking hate. They just do it. They choose a new fucking narrative. And they go with it, and they don't give a shit. It's not just that they don't give a shit who it hurts. They just see that as a bonus. Like those are their enemies. They're hurting basically.
Yeah.
Just disgusting. Next to the stage was a gay man who claimed he almost died of an overdose and had a religious experience where he came to accept Jesus as his Lord and Savior, leading him to exit the homosexual lifestyle and join the ministry to spread the message. So just the same bullshit. He kept speaking like too long, and Koopman just had to tap him like 4 times to get him to just shut up and give up the mic.
Which is funny because like you would think that this would be their biggest sell. A guy who once was gay and exited the lifestyle,
Yeah. No, I mean, he was just really, he was just talking a lot compared to other people. Just go up there, fuck up Lambert the Lion, and get off stage, okay? Don't spice things up too much. So after a set of speeches, Feucht and his band started playing a song. The crowd sang along, waved their hands in the air, and danced around blissfully. Some attendees, clearly less familiar with the revivalist aspect of Feucht's gatherings, seemed to wait around for another speech to start. They had clearly come here for the words of hate, not to attend a concert. I wandered away from the crowd and spotted an elaborate sign held up by a woman sitting in a wheelchair. So boys, I need you to kind of describe what you see here.
Yeah, here's a big colorful poster board that says defund Disney. Lots of text and clip art of children. It says, welcome to Disney, where the perverts are hard at work programming your children. Disney, isn't it your job to entertain children, not program them?
There's a bunch more stuff. It says, welcome to Disney, indoctrinating your children one at a time. Disney is waging a war on innocence. Disney employees arrested for child pedophilia, 45 and counting. Awake, not woke. Disney, why do you want to control what's between my legs? Disney, why are you so concerned about my child's sexuality? Disney, why do you hire so many child pedophiles? Which, like, child pedophile, you don't need to put child in there. You can just leave that word. It works. Nearer to the Disney Studios gate, a man was standing alone in silence, holding a large hand-drawn sign.
It reads, child innocence, not LGBTQIA brainwash, not gender confusion. Protect children from Disney woke psychops.
This guy I would walk up to him and he would just kind of stare blankly, like just say nothing and just stare. And
I think it's he's doing IRL posting.
Yes,
he's presenting the text of what he wants to say.
Yeah,
and then he's done.
That's it. He's like, listen, I put a lot of effort into this. I don't have any more energy to say anything or mingle with anybody.
He's like, I've gotten the order of the LGBTQ letters incorrect. I've misspelled psychops. It's like psychological pork chops.
Side chops.
Side chops.
Nearby, another middle-aged man with a megaphone was berating a couple of stone-faced Disney guards through the gate. His talking points were familiar.
The New World Order is dead. Your Great Reset is dead. Stop with your demonic agenda. It's over. Leave our children alone, you triple scumbags.
From the way he phrased things, it's my guess that this guy was a fan of InfoWars. And he wasn't the only one in the crowd. I saw another young woman holding a sign that said, Alex Jones was right, and at least 2 young men with InfoWars t-shirts. The guy we just listened to continued to yell through the gate until a nearby group of 3 young children, supervised by an older lady, attracted his attention. He approached one of them, a small boy who had been half-heartedly yelling anti-Disney slogans every few minutes. He held a bullhorn to the child's mouth.
Don't mess with us. I'm a kid.
Yeah.
Amen. I love it. Give it to him.
We don't want to just see Disney pictures. And what happened if Disney picture was just all over our school?
Yeah.
We need
safe kid content.
We need to have math and all that stuff. We don't need to see like Disney stuff everywhere.
Oh God, this is
so depressing.
Fucking depressing.
These people are the perverts.
Oh,
they're truly
my God.
perverted.
Yeah, I agree.
Disgusting perverts.
Disgusting. Say it again. Say it louder.
Come on, say it, kid.
Yeah, and you're there like warning about the coercion of children and corrupting their minds. You're putting a fucking megaphone in front of a scared kid. He's turning up and asking his parent if he can say the thing that the scary man is telling him to say. Like, this is fucking wild. Shame on you.
The man was disappointed in the performance, so he shook the kid's hand and wandered off. But then the child screamed something the man agreed with, so he returned with the bullhorn to encourage the boy further.
Shut down Disney!
There you go. See, that's what I wanted you to say right there. Say shut down Disney.
Shut down Disney!
Say it again.
Shut down Disney right now!
One more time.
Shut down Disney!
All right.
Parents had enough! Yeah!
You hear that, you cretins? That's from a little child who's saying, shut down Disney. The parents had enough. He's telling you. This is a smart little boy here is telling you that you pedophiles, I've had enough.
Oh, man.
This guy was horrible. Just a dog shit human being.
The guards at Disney are like, what the
What the fuck? What the fuck?
What the fuck? What the fuck?
is happening?
Usually our job consists of giving confused actors maps of where to go on the lot for their auditions.
Yeah.
We are not used to being called pedophiles through a megaphone. And fuck this guy. He's like, you hear what this kid's saying? It's like, the correct thing would be like, do you hear what I told this kid to yell into my megaphone? Like,
yeah, coerced the kid into doing. Amazing. Soon after, the man was punished. He was interrupted by the sound of a song from The Lion King coming out of a USB speaker held by a thin, younger man in a pink t-shirt and beanie. So here's that moment.
Your demonic agenda is not going to fly with we the people. We the people do not consent to your demonic agenda. This is for Africa, Disney. These are for the African children, the boys and girls who do not believe in perversion, who do not believe in pedophilism, who do not believe that it is right for homosexuality to be taught to children. This is for the future of Africa. Hands off Africa, Disney. Hands off Africa. You will not touch the people of Nigeria. You will not touch the children of Ghana. You will not touch the children of Kenya, because Jesus Christ is the King of Africa. And Jesus Christ is the King of America. And Jesus Christ is the King of all nations.
oh, man.
Yeah, I tried to figure out what he was talking about, and he gave me this really long-winded explanation about how Disney is going to make the first African cartoon, which I don't think that's a fact, but apparently it was just like a kind of speech about how they were basically disrespecting African culture and stuff like that, or their employees as well. I was very confused because it's not really his point here, you know? I think at the end there with the Jesus stuff, you can kind of see where his point.
Yeah.
And with the, anti-homosexual stuff.
Yeah, it's bigotry disguised as wokeness because they think they sought work, for progressive people or liberals, and they're just essentially copying the form letter, but inserting all of the shitty content. But he loves the song. He's bobbing his head to the Lion King song. That is a piece of artwork produced by Disney that you are.
It's a deep cut too. It breaks into a beat. It's like some sort of
tight.
remix. We'll return to the Lion King guy because he continued to be active even once the sun had come down and the band were packing up. Both his young kids were with him, but he rarely acknowledged them, and they were clearly used to these kinds of situations. They were just pushing little scooters around, weaving in and out of the crowd as he ranted. Even compared to the random bullhorn rants like this, the speeches from the stage were hardly tame. Here's Drew Hernandez from Turning Point USA taking the mic. He runs a show for TPUSA called Frontlines, which claims to target millennials and Zoomers. Hernandez calls himself a political commenter and investigative journalist, and he once participated in a discussion on Tim Pool's podcast that included Alex Jones and Joe Rogan. So, rolling with the good guys.
Mm-hmm. Rolling with the homies.
So here he is, making an insanely unhinged speech.
We're not talking about lowering your taxes. We're not talking about taking money and making better roads. We're talking about pedophiles that want to groom little kids. Listen, I'm going to preach my heart out here because I know exactly what we're facing. Everything that the Bible foretold that we would be dealing with in the future is happening in real time right now. Listen, I don't care where you come from. I don't care where you are right now. You might feel so insignificant, like your life means nothing. Especially as a Christian, maybe things aren't seeming to turn out the way that you thought they would be. Now's your time, bro. Now's your time, sister. Take to social media. Take to the airwaves. Stand for the children right now. Now is not the time to be a coward. Now is not the time to be a coward. And I'm going to leave you guys with this one thing alone. Jesus made it very clear. This is the God that I serve. if anybody causes one of these little ones that believes in me to stumble, let a millstone be tied around their neck and thrown into the ocean. Is that too radical for you? I'm not saying we should go out and start killing people. What I'm saying is have the heart of the Lion of Judah and aggressively defend your kids.
Yeah,
Travis and I both have our heads in our hands.
Yeah.
Just, we are
lots of good stuff about there. It's like, hey, first of all, I love it's like, hey, you're feeling aimless, purposeless, depressed. How about you get angry online and post about the things I'm yelling about right now? Then you'll feel happy and purposeful once again.
It's just save the children, but in the absence of the the guiding of the Q drops, it's reverted back to what Save the Children always was. Save the children from the devil, save the children from gay people, save the children from I don't know.
Well, everyone left of me who are all pedophiles.
Yeah, exactly.
That's literally it. I mean,
it's everyone left.
It's fucking QAnon. It's amazing. It's so mainstream that the average person who's now whipped up into this probably doesn't even know about QAnon. At one point, a speaker asked any political candidates, including those for local offices and school boards, to raise their hands. There were easily like a half dozen to a dozen of them. The crowd laid hands on them and prayed for them to succeed in attaining political positions. Feucht made his 11-year-old daughter say a prayer after he explained to the crowd that her generation was under assault, but that they would be the ones to, quote, crush the head of the serpent. The LAPD presence was minimal, and they never intervened, in stark contrast to the recent massive police turnout and aggressive intervention during the scientist-led protest addressing lack of governmental action in regards to climate change. They really laid into those people, and they had way more cops. Pastor Jay Koopman went as far as to explain to the crowd that the police should be praised because they, quote, have our back. At the time, I didn't know it, but a star made an appearance. Disney actor Taylor Dooley, who has been in multiple movie projects like 2005's The Adventures of Shark Boy and Lava Girl, and 2020's We Can Be Heroes. She later made a long Instagram post to her 316,000 subscribers, doubling down on her beliefs and support for the Feucht Disney protest. Here's how she concluded it.
The truth is, I love Disney. I just took my family to Disneyland for my son's birthday back in November. But their latest move seeks to sexualize and indoctrinate our children, and that is not okay with me and parents all over the world. I am praying that they have a change of heart, but in the meantime, I can no longer support them for my children.
Lava Girl is pilled. Sorry, folks. Maybe they could put together like a full pilled variant of the MCU.
Yeah.
All the superheroes that turned into QAnon supporters.
Yeah, it's like
Disney
Disney pilled. Disney Plus, a separate app. See, dude, you're getting on board with me.
Yeah.
I'm saying these folks already live in an alternate universe. We need to create one for them.
Again with a hologram storm.
We need a hologram
He's obsessed
storm.
with it.
We do. We
Jake
need
is waiting for the hologram storm like QAnon is waiting for the actual storm.
Yeah, we just need to sequester them in a reality shaped to their liking so they can feel like they won and they just stop bothering everybody else.
Okay, so imprison them in a false
a prison that they love. It's a good this is a good matrix. This is a good matrix that they won't reject. You know what I mean? I still think it's a good idea.
At this point, it was a recurring theme, just like I love Disney, I go there all the time, I give them all my money, but this is too much. Everybody there seemed to have attended Disney frequently. Pastor Jay Koopman even explained that he was an annual pass holder.
Being a young parent, having two beautiful daughters, can I just be honest? My wife and I live in Orange County, and one of the things that we love to do since our baby was born was to take them to Disneyland. Do we got anybody in here that would go to Disneyland? Can I just be real with you? We have annual passes to Disneyland. Matter of fact, me and my church, because it was a fun thing to do, we would go and fellowship at Disneyland. Anybody know what I'm talking about? But we can't just stand out here and sing. We've got to take action. So I am commissioning and asking all of you to not renew your Disneyland account. We will not go back. They will not get our money. They will not get our time. We will not support something that's going to come against our children. There is nobody in hell that will ever try to sexualize my children, your children. Stand with me. Are you with me right now? I want you to end your account. I want you to write emails. I want you to counsel Disney in the name of Jesus. Come on, shout.
Cancel Disney in the name of Jesus.
Yeah, I will say, pretty weak to claim that you're not going to let your annual pass renew in April of the year. That gives you at least 8 more months to be able to in good conscience attend Disneyland with your family.
Jake is doing the math. He has a Venn diagram out. He's got a Gantt chart. Yeah, no, I thought it was a pretty funny touch that just kept being a recurring thing. But also, he mentioned, like, we used to go with my church to Disney to fellowship. It's like, I wonder what these people would think if a group of Muslims went to fellowship at Disney. Yeah. They would have a fucking meltdown.
Yeah.
You're fucking treating this place like it's your church or whatever. It's like, how is that?
And also, where's the scrutiny on Universal Studios? This, of course, is where the Harry Potter world is.
That's witchcraft.
An entire area devoted to witchcraft.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on?
Speaking of witchcraft, Shiva Bagari was also in attendance, a far-right activist often seen at this type of Southern California event. She's currently running for city council in Beverly Hills. She's the one I posted that picture of her where she says, a crime happens here in Beverly Hills almost every week, which I thought was just very funny. But yeah, here she is talking to a right-wing streamer.
You know what? I used to watch Disney shows, but you know what's kind of crazy is the veils being lifted. I realized that Disney's always been about witchcraft. I mean, look at the mouse has got a witch hat. It's all about magic, And instead of God, they're like, oh, it's magic. You know what I mean? And then you look at oh, it's all about being pretty, and they're young, and then they marry a prince, and it's like, oh, you got to be so beautiful. And it's so shallow. It's really shallow. They're teaching our kids to be shallow. And the message is really not a good message. You know what I mean? I want my kid to love everybody, regardless of what they look like on the outside. And we're supposed to love our neighbors as ourselves. I think we should go back to the 10 Commandments. Imagine if we went back by the 10 Commandments and we all thought that way. There's one God. We don't have these false gods like these celebrities, these spirit-cooking celebrities, because you know that they're a bunch of spirit-cooking Luciferians. And we got to keep it real. People think I'm crazy, but look into it yourself.
Oh, yeah.
There's that cute stuff.
Beverly Pills.
Now we're talking.
Beverly Pills?
Beverly Pills.
Shiva would later be seen ranting against the Luciferian globalists and telling them to cough up the demons possessing them. All of this through a megaphone that had an InfoWars sticker on it. Another figure present, Brina Makovka, who was a J6 participant and has ties to far-right activism and violence in the Southern California area. And thank you to Vishal Singh for sharing this information with me. So at the time, I didn't really know who she was. I just thought of her as a woman wearing a t-shirt with a giant QR code on it. So I walked up to her and I asked her what it was about.
What it leads to is a trail to one of the, one of these national trails, I don't know if you know, but a lot of children, or one of the places in which they're smuggled is from national, parks, exactly. Sorry, my head's all over the place. So when you do this and you take a picture of it, it leads to a trail, and then I have on the back, this is the Trail of Death. It's J6 gear. I was in January 6th.
Oh, cool.
So I was there and I created J6 merch. You can get it on Bonfire. And I'm trying to change the narrative of that whole day. So.
At least she's honest.
She's like,
change
listen,
the narrative of the day.
This is a QR code. I wore to J6. I was there, and it's about the tunnels that they're smuggling children in. And
it leads you right to that trail. It's like, here on my shirt I have a QR code. It leads to a gallows.
No, it'll help you go buy children. This is a location where you can come and purchase your own child. Fantastic, man. I love to do viral marketing.
Yeah, she's not only a human post, she's a human hyperlink.
She was clearly proud of having attended January 6th, but she also went on to explain that there were tunnels in California and Nevada where children were being smuggled. She claimed to have been chased out of the California one by a cop. When I asked her what was happening to the children, she raised her eyebrows and asked me, "Where do you think these children are going?" I was then told in a very friendly way to do my own research. This was a pattern at the event. You'd hear QAnon claims, but no mention of Q. Everybody seemed to understand that publicly supporting QAnon was a discredit, but they might also have lost their utility for the anonymous poster. After all, their favorite anti-LGBT panic was already successfully dominating the entire right-wing media sphere. I spotted a figure I recognized. Allison Steinberg, aka Allison Wonderland, a makeup artist turned far-right activist. She was interviewing people in the crowd. Allison had come a long way since we ran into her in July of 2020 at the first Save the Children rally in LA, where she was wearing a QAnon t-shirt and explaining that she was freshly red-pilled. Since then, she had gotten involved with the media operation of Jess Weber, a guy with Proud Boy connections who filmed himself at January 6th holding a police riot shield. She had also appeared on InfoWars multiple times and gone viral for harassing a Starbucks employee who asked her to wear a mask in the drive-thru. I asked her why she was attending the protest.
I thought today was particularly important because I personally grew up with Disney, and it was a huge part of my life as a child, and it's just sickening to see what is happening with them and the grooming of the children of today. It is something that every parent should be aware of and stand up and fight back about, because if we don't stop this now, it's just going to continue to go on and get worse.
I asked her what she thought Disney should do.
I mean, I would hope they would listen. I mean, there's thousands, probably millions of Disney fans out there. If everyone started voting with their dollar, I think that could have a huge impact. Unfortunately, a lot of people aren't willing to take those steps that I think are necessary to actually make the change. But if Disney really cared, I think they would be listening and, revoke some of these insane stances that they've got.
Then I asked her if she felt that the Disney protest was a sign that people were waking up to QAnon and concepts like adrenochrome. She responded positively, as you'll hear, but then we immediately got interrupted, and then my camera's battery died.
Do you think that some of this Disney stuff, specifically the laws in Florida, have helped shed light on stuff that used to be a bit more like taboo, like QAnon and kind of the children and adrenochrome and stuff?
Well, yeah, I think so, because a lot of these teachers in Florida say, no, it's not about grooming kids, no, it's not about indoctrination. Yet now that they've
covering a real story about real kids getting hurt.
So yeah, unfortunately interrupted by a man harassing an NBC4 reporter. I changed my battery as quickly as I could, but the guy kept yelling, and anyway, Allison was now busy interviewing people with her Proud Boy cameraman. I would have to wait for the next event to ask her again. The concert was starting to wind down. Sean-Feucht encouraged everybody to gather under the Disney sign to, quote, take a picture for the news. His entourage held up a giant banner that said, hold the line. The crowd started chanting as he raised a guitar in one hand. Once they were done with this, the band started packing up. As night fell, the vibes continued to spiral. An angry older guy kept chasing around the local NBC4 crew, a cameraman with an LGBT flag face mask, and a middle-aged black anchor woman. The crowd joined in. It was getting pretty ugly.
Why don't you go to the border and watch those little children, the little 4-year-old girls being raped right now? Do you want to? Do you really care about people? You don't care about people. They don't care about kids. They don't care about family. We don't want you no more. We don't want you no more, NBC News.
The sun had long fallen, but across the street from Disney Studios, away from the main crowd, the same guy who had ranted about Africa was now telling a story about getting kicked out of Disneyland with his kids.
I brought my 2 children to Disneyland, and at the gates of Disneyland in Anaheim, I opened up my Bible to the book of Isaiah, chapter 61. And I was reading on the last night of Hanukkah. I was reading the words of Isaiah 61 at the gates of Disneyland, and this is what it says. The Spirit of the Sovereign Lord is upon me, because the Lord has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim freedom for the captives and release from darkness for the prisoners, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor and the day of vengeance of our God.
So I guess you can kind of see why maybe he got kicked out of Disney.
Yeah.
I mean, I won't play the whole prayer, but it got pretty heated. So then I was just kind of standing there, and I pictured him screaming all of this at the gates of Disneyland in the presence of his children. And then I looked down, and I noticed he was wearing a lanyard with some passes in it, including one to Legoland.
Oh.
So then I started picturing him with his kids making a scene like this at various theme parks. And I started to get fucking sad.
Yeah, that gives me anxiety.
Awful. Here's how he ended the story.
So there I am at the gates of Disneyland in Anaheim, now no more than 40 miles away from here. And the next thing I know, I was surrounded by 22 security guards. 22 security guards for reading the words of the Bible. And they brought 2 Anaheim police in front of my children. They arrested me at the gates of Disneyland for reading the Bible on the last night of Hanukkah. December 6th, 2021. Since then, the city attorney's office has trumped up the charges against me. 3 charges are now against me for reading the Bible at the gates of Disneyland.
And now they're taking away my children. And now I'm going to jail.
Yeah, sounds like he could write a new book for the Bible, the Book of Josh, where he proselytizes at the gates of Disneyland, and 22 guards appeared from a nearby bush and told him to leave. I wonder, it could also, I doubt this guy had a mask on, and in December of 2021, I believe that Disneyland had just reopened pretty recently, trying to figure out what their flow looked like, mid-COVID.
Yeah.
So, maybe it didn't have anything to do with the Bible, bud.
Now I'm picturing him getting tossed out by a bunch of, full-size yellow Lego men.
A bunch of Disney characters pile on. That would have been...
It's getting carried out by a bunch of mascots. It's so fucking depressing, because his kids were there, still scooting around him at night, and it's just, fuck...
I have a hard time understanding why why Christians are so angry. Is it that after hundreds of years of, enjoying the comforts of being, the sort of settled reality, that things are starting to change and that terrifies them? Have we always had crazy religious kooks out on the streets, in the 1800s? And
absolutely.
Stuff.
Sean-Feucht comes from the Azusa revival, which was the idea of bringing the church into the streets.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a whole lineage.
They could have had a nice Wednesday night, but instead they're out here. I don't know.
The guy continued ranting to a thinning crowd. It was night, but he was not done spreading the good word. In this clip, you can hear him address me when he forgets a reference.
So I urge you to turn the tables against injustice and how Disney is being used. How Disney is being used by the devil. Disney is being used by the devil, just the same way that Harvey Weinstein was used by the devil. The same way that, in some ways, horrible, tyrannical people have been used by the devil. The same way that...
Who's a pedophile at the island? Who's a dude?
Epstein. Just like Jeffrey Epstein was used by the devil.
It felt really bad to be the guy that gave him that. I was just like,
something similar happened to me once. I was at a small John Mayer concert, and it was shortly after he came back from having nodule surgery. And he forgot the words to My Body is a Wonderland while he was singing it. And he kind of looked out in the crowd, and there I was, pretty big John Mayer fan, late teens, early 20s. Okay. And I was there singing the words, and he got back on track and continued to sing the song.
That's a lot like this.
I feel like you and I have a
We understand each other.
We do. I understand.
At this point, I realized I had become some sort of co-pilot for this guy, which was not what I had set out to do.
Yeah, definitely let me just tee this one up for you, a guy yelling into a megaphone.
Yeah.
Hillary Clinton. Barack Obama.
I was overcome with a strong urge to leave. This was truly one of the most vile events I had attended. It was also my first time out in the field again since I returned to the United States. And what a homecoming it was.
Sounds awful. So glad I didn't go with you.
As I walked back to the car, I checked the time. The entire thing had lasted just a bit over 2 hours. It had felt a lot longer. It was time for me to go home.
Well, thank you for your service, Julian. Yeah.
Yeah, seriously.
It feels bad.
That would have been a bad one for me.
It was just so hateful, awful. So targeted too, a lot less I don't know, like, as much as you can argue that there are, good vibes or whatever at certain QAnon gatherings because people just want to get together and have fun, like, this felt different.
Yeah.
Darker.
I mean, the footage that you have of the guy chasing around the NBC reporter, who, as far as I could tell, is a woman of color from the video.
Yeah.
Anytime you see somebody chasing somebody and like yelling aggressively at them, and it's not clear whether she had any kind of security with her and is kind of backing away, that just filled me with like an intense sadness and fear.
Well, it was right in front of the cops, but they didn't do anything. They just watched it happen.
You know what's really interesting is I'm surprised that Disney themselves, I mean, these studios have insane security. I mean,
well, no one went in. That's the thing, is like they basically coordinated with the cops and was like, we'll only fill the whole front gate for like a moment for the photo. We'll set up the stage to the side. So they collaborate with the police to make a situation in which it wouldn't make sense for Disney to intervene. And then they don't intervene.
Insidious.
They don't intervene. They just let it happen. And of course, these people thank the cops for their service as they walk away. They're instructed to by these, people making sermons on stage and organizing it. So the whole thing, it just felt, just profoundly dispiriting.
Hey, vey.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the QAnon Anonymous podcast. This week, we are very excited because we have an announcement. We are about to launch, in fact, the first episode should drop on the 15th of this month of April, a new limited edition miniseries by our very own Travis View. It's called Trickle Down. Travis, do you want to tell us a bit about it?
Yeah, it's really hyped. So, we wanted to, we're all going to try and take a stab at, taking our own series. And I'm really excited because it's, an opportunity to talk about things that I'm really interested in. I guess my broader sort of interest is in people who are wrong in really huge ways, just extremely not correct, not on the factual route they should be on. But Trickle Down really explores people who are wrong, but also are able to implement their wrongness into policy. So they have wrong ideas about how the world works, and then they're able to, they're backed by academia and science, and they wear suits and lab coats, and everyone thinks that they know exactly what they should be talking about, but they're wrong. And then the rest of us just have to deal with the consequence of them enforcing this wrongness upon the rest of us. And I'm going to start the series with, we're going to do a two-parter on, I think, one of the worst debacles in 20th century American science, which is the story of the Kallikak family, which was by this research psychologist named Henry Herbert Goddard, thought that basically he had cracked the code about why alcoholism and degeneracy and crime existed, and he thought it was all hereditary. And he created this story about this family he called the Kallikak family to attempt to prove this. And it was hugely successful, popular book, influenced a lot of people, including, the Nazis. But what happened was that it was only later that scientists and policymakers discovered that the science was actually horrible. He got a lot of stuff wrong, like he got the genealogy wrong. He made a lot of bad assumptions. So it's really a story of, that's bad, horrible science that was nonetheless temporarily accepted in the wider scientific and, cultural, political circles. And then it led to really disastrous impacts on the most vulnerable people.
Gather round, kids. Learn about eugenics.
Well, yeah. It's I think it's interesting because, I don't know. I think eugenics is a really interesting topic because I don't think people fully appreciate how much of a eugenics frenzy there was in the U.S. in the early 20th century. I mean, the United States is basically where intellectual eugenics was developed. And it was a really huge thing, but it's kind of I don't know. I think it's a little bit awkward for everyone on the political spectrum because obviously, right wingers don't want to feel like, their country did dumb things or horrible things. And of course, the thing about eugenics is that it was part of the progressive movement at the time. It's like if you believed in women's suffrage and you believed in, more liberal policies and you believed in all these other things, you also statistically probably also believed in eugenics in the early 20th century.
Yeah, so we can't wait to launch that. It'll be coming out once a week for 10 weeks. And it's going to be on top of, everything we normally put out, our regular episodes and our premium episodes. So just extra stuff for all of you. And so if you want access to that, to what is becoming a really cool extended catalog, the price has not changed, $5 a month, and you can subscribe at patreon.com/QAnonAnonymous. And really excited. We worked with Nick Senna again, who made our first album on our kind of little record label here. And he has composed a really, really cool theme for it. And I know Travis is ready to go and excited. So I don't know. I'm just really excited to share it with everybody.
Yeah.
And,
I listened to like the first
cool.
2 minutes before we started recording this episode today, and I was like really, really blown away. I'm really excited to dive into it. And also, in case it wasn't clear, if you are a Patreon subscriber currently, you do not have to pay anything more to get these new miniseries. This is part of your subscription, so there's no increase in price if you're already a
just more
subscriber.
content.
There's more content. There's a brand new miniseries and other miniseries down the line over the next couple years. So really, really exciting stuff, and we can't wait to share everything with you guys.
A new chapter in the QAnonAnonymous.
In a world where a podcast decides to make other smaller podcasts and release them for no extra fee to their faithful subscribers.
Oh, God.
In a world where Travis View gets to tell you just how stupid America really is, with little to no oversight from the two co-hosts.
Anti-American Travis View. Jake's series, by the way, will be him doing that voice just for like 10 hours.
In a world, in a world where my series is very easy to write because I make it up on the day of the recording.
In a world where Jake's body parts are found spread out across various freezers, and people suspect his co-host, Julian Field. So yeah, thanks for subscribing, and you help us stay advertising free and editorially independent. For everything else, we have a website, QAnonAnonymous.com. Listener, until next week, may the deep dish bless you and keep you.
It's not a conspiracy, it's fact.
And now, today's auto cue.
Remember, there's also Jews, and we also believe in God, and we also believe that God, we have ways that God had taught us to be, and that is not pedophilia, it's not homosexuality. A man shouldn't lie with a man like he lied with a woman. And Disney has got to be quiet for the Christians and the Jews. Shema Israel, and an oil,